Have you ever wondered what sets millennials apart from Generation Z? This question has become a hot topic of discussion in recent years. As we navigate through this digital age, we often find ourselves grappling with understanding these two influential generations: millennials, those born between 1981 and 1996, and Generation Z, born from 1997 onwards, are frequently at the center of cultural and societal debates. These two generations, while close in age, are often painted with broad strokes, leading to a number of misunderstandings and misconceptions. You might have heard that millennials are entitled or lazy, while Gen Z is tech-obsessed and lacks social skills. But are these labels truly reflective of these generations? Or are they just stereotypes propagated by those who fail to comprehend their complexities? In this video, we're going to challenge these assumptions. So, let's delve into the world of millennials and Gen Z and debunk some myths. First things first, who exactly are the millennials? Well, let's dive into this. Millennials, also known as Generation Y, are people born between the early 1980s and the mid to late 1990s. This generation grew up during a time of major societal change. Remember the dawn of the internet age, anyone? Millennials are often characterized as tech-savvy, adaptable, and open-minded individuals. They've grown up in a world that's rapidly changing, and they've learned to keep pace with it. They're comfortable with diversity, and are more accepting of different cultures, lifestyles, and ideas than previous generations. But these aren't the only traits that define them. Millennials are also known for their pursuit of purpose. They value meaningful work more than high salaries and are often driven by a desire to make a positive impact on the world. They're the ones starting social enterprises, creating innovative solutions to global problems, and challenging the status quo. However, like every generation, millennials have their own set of challenges. They've been shaped by economic uncertainty, having entered the workforce during the Great Recession. They're also the first generation expected to be less financially successful than their parents. This has led to a sense of disillusionment and the desire for a more equitable society. But it's not all gloom and doom. Despite these challenges, millennials have shown resilience and creativity. They're the ones driving the gig economy, pioneering remote work, and pushing for more flexible and balanced lifestyles. They've also embraced digital technology like no other generation before them, transforming how we communicate, work, and play. Millennials have also been influential in shaping societal attitudes towards mental health, environmental sustainability, and social justice, leading the way towards a more inclusive and conscious world. So there you have it, a snapshot of the millennial generation: tech-savvy, purpose-driven, resilient, and transformative. These are the folks who've grown up straddling the line between the analog past and the digital future, navigating the complexities of the modern world with a unique blend of optimism and pragmatism. Having defined the millennial generation, it's time to turn our attention to Generation Z. Now let's explore Generation Z, the youngsters shaking up the world. Born between the mid-90s and the mid-2010s, Generation Z is the newest demographic to enter the workforce and make their mark on society. They are the first generation to grow up entirely in the digital age, with smartphones, social media, and the internet deeply ingrained in their daily lives. The result? A generation that's tech-savvy, connected, and eager to innovate. But it's not just their digital prowess that defines Gen Z. This generation, perhaps more than any other, is marked by their diversity and their commitment to social justice. They've grown up in a world that's more multicultural, more accepting, and more aware of social issues than ever before. And they're not afraid to stand up for what they believe in, whether that's fighting for climate change, advocating for LGBTQ+ rights, or calling out systemic racism. In terms of values, Generation Z is pragmatic and realistic. They've been shaped by events like the Great Recession and the global pandemic, which have taught them the importance of financial stability and resilience. They're not just dreamers, they're doers, with a strong entrepreneurial spirit and a desire to make a difference. Yet despite their maturity, they're still a generation that values fun, creativity, and authenticity. They're the ones leading the charge on TikTok, creating viral trends, and redefining what it means to be a social influencer. They're not afraid to be themselves, to show their quirks, and to challenge the status quo. But perhaps most importantly, Generation Z is a generation of changemakers. They're not satisfied with the world as it is. They want to make it better. They're pushing boundaries, breaking down barriers, and setting new standards. They're not just the new kids on the block. They're the ones reshaping the block altogether. With a clear understanding of both generations, let's compare and contrast them. Although Millennials and Gen Z share some similarities, their differences are profound. Let's start with technology use. Millennials, born between the early 80s and late 90s, are often referred to as the bridge between the analog and digital age. They witnessed the birth of the internet, the rise of social media, and the evolution of smartphones. However, Generation Z, born in the late 90s through the early 2010s, are digital natives. They've never known a world without Wi-Fi, touchscreens, or instant communication. This difference in exposure and comfort with technology is one of the most defining contrasts between the two generations. Then there's communication preferences. Millennials, often seen as the email generation, tend to prefer digital communication, but they're also comfortable with face-to-face interaction. Generation Z, on the other hand, is all about speed and brevity. They prefer quick, visual-based communication platforms like Snapchat and Instagram, and their messages are often condensed into images, emojis, or short videos. Moving on to attitudes towards work. Millennials, having entered the workforce during or after the Great Recession, value job stability and growth opportunities. They're known for being ambitious, idealistic, and wanting a work-life balance. Meanwhile, Generation Z, still largely in their formative years, seem to be more pragmatic. They've seen the struggles of millennials and are more likely to value financial security over passion, and they're drawn to entrepreneurship, with a desire to create and control their own career paths. Lastly, let's touch on worldviews. Millennials are often seen as the socially conscious generation, driven by values and the desire to make a difference. They champion the rise of socially responsible businesses and sustainable practices. Generation Z, while also socially aware, seems to be more focused on individuality. They're all about expressing their unique identities and embracing diversity. They're less about fitting into societal norms and more about breaking them. These differences paint a picture of two generations with distinct identities. But what about their similarities? Despite their differences, Millennials and Gen Z share some common ground. Let's explore this common ground that bridges these two generations. Both Millennials and Gen Z, often labeled as digital natives, have grown up in a world where technology is intertwined with everyday life. This has led to a shared fluency in social media, a comfort with digital communication, and a distinct way of processing information. They are also bound by a shared sense of social responsibility. Both generations have shown a strong inclination towards social justice, environmental sustainability, and equality. This shared consciousness has been shaped by the world they've inherited. A world grappling with climate change, social inequality, and political polarization. Moreover, these two generations share a collective experience of significant global events. The Great Recession, the rise of the internet, and more recently, the COVID-19 pandemic have all left indelible marks on their lives. These experiences have fostered resilience, adaptability, and a sense of global interconnectedness. Finally, both Millennials and Gen Z value authenticity. They seek transparency in their interactions, whether with brands, institutions, or individuals. This shared value has influenced how they engage with the world, shaping their consumer behavior, their political beliefs, and their social interactions. As we can see, while Millennials and Gen Z are different in many ways, they aren't worlds apart. So what have we learned about Millennials and Gen Z today? We've delved into the generational question, uncovering the unique characteristics that define each group. We discovered that Millennials, born between the early 1980s and mid-90s, are ambitious, tech-savvy, and value work-life balance. Then, we turned our attention to Generation Z, the new kids on the block. Born from the mid-90s to the early 2000s, they're true digital natives with a passion for social justice and a pragmatic approach to their futures. We contrasted these two generations, highlighting key differences like their varying attitudes towards technology and career. But we also found common ground. Both generations are civic-minded, value authenticity, and are shaping our world in remarkable ways. In understanding these two generations, we can better appreciate the unique contributions each brings to the table. So, here's to the Millennials and Gen Z, each forging their own path while sharing some common ground.